come a little bit earlier. Come at 10:30 for connection, for that time between our two services where we gather in smaller groups to get to know each other and do a variety of different things. There are opportunities to drop in, and every single week there is something called Inquirers, which is a way to get to know something about the church. So this week it was a Q&A with me. Who knows what I said? Next week it's about pastoral care. If you're new, or if you're someone who's been here for 50 years and you're still wondering what the heck is pastoral care, I recommend you go to that. But here is where we are. So I invite you to take a comfortable breath with me now as we settle into this space. Ira, are you coming alone, or will you bring Donna with you to light the chalice? Well, Donna's gonna come. Ira and Donna will light our chalice, a symbol of our faith that connects us with Unitarian Universalist congregations at this very hour around the country. And I invite all of you to join me in our unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Dorso. I use he, him, his pronouns, and for most of my professional career, I have worked in an enrollment management capacity, admissions, mostly at the college and university level, to my current position at the Harley School. And one of the most important things we do in admissions land for folks who are looking to explore their school options is the college fair, which for any of you who have been through it, either yourselves or with children, is that wonderful, probably Wednesday night in mid-October, where everybody amasses in your local high school gym, and college reps from all across the area, all across the country, come in and we set up tables with banners and stickers and pens and information to answer all the questions that you need answered about whether our school is a right fit for you in your next step. And so I've been doing this for a very, very long time, more years than I care to admit. And several years ago, at one of the schools I was working at down on Long Island, our marketing team decided they wanted to redo our table setup. It had gotten a little stale over the years. We'd had the same banner and same signs, and they wanted to freshen things up with new information. And we said, great, we really appreciate that. And so they brought to us one day some really wonderful, lovely designed new signs to stand on our table. And if you've lived on our side of that table for a long time, you know that there are questions that families will ask over and over. And that's the point of those signs. Things like, where are you? And how much do you cost? And what kind of majors do you have? Things like that. None of which were on the signs. And so I said to our folks, I said, these are great, but we really can't use them. And they said, but they look great. They're on brand, and they've got colors and the diverse pictures and all those kinds of things. I said, great. Yeah, it checks off a lot of boxes. But this is a table that does not do what we need for the people who are coming to speak with us. And ultimately, that's why we come to church. Wait for it. So when you're setting a table, literally setting a table, whether it's in a marketing capacity like I've done, or whether you're just inviting people to your home, you're trying to put forth that best effort. You're trying to show what is great about you and your culinary expertise or anything along those lines. But what you really have to keep in mind is the people who you are welcoming into your home, into your space, you need to make sure you take care of them too. You need to make sure that you are setting that table in a way that is welcoming and open and helps build community and answers those questions and in a way that is positive and productive. And that's what we do here at First Unitarian. It's not about us up here. It's about all of you who come here to this table with us and how we do all of this work together and how we want to make sure that what you come for and the questions that you need answered, we're able to help work together and meet as a community. And with that, I want you to take a quick second and turn to your neighbor and say hello if you do not already know them, or even if you already do. And let's talk hospitality for a quick second. Talk about a culinary experience that you had at a friend's house, where you went to someone's house and they did something really fantastic and you really felt welcomed. And then at the end, Pablo will bring us back with some music. Not that fast, but please take a minute and greet your neighbors.
Good morning, everyone. I want to invite everyone to come out of their lovely conversations and rejoin us all together. Have a seat. So good to see you all connecting with one another. So good to see everyone here this morning. And I am especially excited to see our families and children today because it is the first day of religious education classes. I'm also very excited to see all of you, especially because I hope that some of you who maybe don't have young children might want to volunteer in RE at some point. You never know. So I have a story for you this morning. Any of my children who like to come forward for the Time for All Ages, you can come on forward. I will normally have a cozy carpet for you, which is not here today, but it will be. But come on down. You're resilient. You can sit on the hard floor for a few minutes. And you can sit right here. Beautiful, wonderful. Thank you. It's so good to see you. So good to see you. And why don't you turn and face me, because the story's going to happen this way. Why don't you hop down onto the, there we go. Perfect. Okay, so our story today has kind of a funny name for us as Unitarian Universalists. It's called The Difference Between Heaven and Hell. Whoa. Wow. And one thing that's kind of interesting to know about us as Unitarian Universalists is that hell, or kind of a not so nice place that you might go after you've lived a great life here on earth, is something that we actually don't believe in. Unitarians didn't believe in it, Universalists didn't believe in it, and together, now as Unitarian Universalists, it's not something that we really embrace. But we do embrace the idea of heaven or hell existing on earth, that we do create either a really wonderful, beautiful place to be together on earth, or we can create a really not so great place to be. So those things can happen right here while we are living. Sorry, I just got distracted because this is my favorite snack, popcorn. Someone must have left it here for me, which is so kind because I did not get to eat breakfast and I am so hungry. I'm just gonna take a little snack. Oh, smells so good. Okay, I just have to have like a little bite before we go on, okay? Is that okay with you? Is that all right? Oh, you want some too? Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? I don't think I can share it right at this moment, but I promise you'll get some good snacks. Whoops! In RE, in your time in religious education, you'll get some good snacks at some point. But I am picking this up because I also see that on this table is kind of a funny sign. It says, "You must use the spoon to eat this tasty snack." So I'm going to do that because I follow the rules. I'm a good, usually. Okay, so I am going to, okay, I got that part. That part's pretty good. So here I go. Ah, darn it. Okay, let me try again. This is a little tricky with this spoon, but I'm going to keep trying. A couple more kernels here. All right, I think this way will work. Ready? Shoot! This is...
Amanda?
Oh, hi.
What are you doing?
Well, I was going to tell the Time for All Ages story, but then this incredibly delicious snack appeared.
Yeah, there's popcorn here. This is great.
Are you hungry too?
Oh, yeah.
Do you like popcorn?
Yeah.
You can have some, but you have to use the spoon to eat the tasty snack.
Oh.
So feel free. It's a little tricky, but I think we'll get it. Ready?
All right.
Let's try it together.
All right.
Okay.
Do that.
Maybe if I get down really low.
Right. I like the flipping thing, man.
Darn it. It's a little tricky, isn't it? It's a little hard. Well, oh, you almost did it. That was so close. I wonder if anybody has any ideas about how we might be able to eat this tasty snack. Yeah, Jojo. Scoop it and put it in my hand. It's a great idea, but I have to use the spoon to eat it, so I don't think that's allowed. Yes. Ade. Ooh, that's a good way to keep it kind of not so messy.
Put the bowl on the floor.
I'm just not sure that's
We are making quite a mess, I will say that.
We are, you're right, right.
That's true.
And get more tries. Oh, that is a good idea.
You all are a lot more helpful than the adults were this morning.
Wait a minute.
Wait, we have a good idea?
Daxton, can you say that again? Feed each other?
Feed each other, it's brilliant.
Feed each other.
It took a solid 20 minutes this morning for the first service to figure that out.
Yeah, there weren't any kids at the first service.
No.
I think that was the problem.
Okay. All right.
Ready? All right.
Okay, all right, we got
you
this.
first. Ready?
All right, here we go.
Ready? Here you go.
Yeah.
Oh, it worked. Daxton.
All right, here we go.
Okay,
Here we go.
I'm so hungry.
All right, here we go.
Wow. Thank you so
Jackson,
much
nicely
for
done.
your help. I really appreciate it. Do you have a final comment, Ade? I can. Thank you so much, Chris,
Yeah,
for
of
your
course,
help.
yeah.
So that's my story for today. So the difference between heaven and hell on earth. I mean, I was working so hard to just do it myself, right? Gosh, it was making me feel really upset and hungry and annoyed. But then when Daxton had that great idea and Chris and I could help each other, I got to eat some popcorn, which really was, the main goal. So, thank you for helping me with my story. And now we're going to join together to sing the children out to their classes.
We bless you on your journey through, from sheltering arms to the wide sky blue. In your joyful jumps and your sad times too, you bless us by being you.
What a gift it is to be with all of you this morning and for us to be with each other this morning. This is the time where we quiet what is going on in the world, what is going on inside of us, and reflect on it. And I was wondering if you could breathe a little with me. If you can breathe in and breathe out. Breathe a slower breath in and a slower breath out. And this last breath on your own pace. And join me in the spirit of prayer, reflection, and meditation with the words by a dear friend of mine, the Reverend Lisa Garcia Sampson. Spirit of life and love, Spirit that lives within us and between us and among us right now. Within this beloved community and in our collective liberation work, may we continue to weave the web of trust and care to keep our bodies safe. But more than that, may our bodies be the site of healing, joy, and freedom. May we refuse to let our spirits be depleted and hardened by the forces of hate. Instead, may we open ourselves to be nourished and transformed by the movement for justice. Knowing that our collective story is not what we are fighting against, but what we are fighting for. For ours is the work of creation. Ours is the work of inviting people into an irresistible movement rooted in our belief that a new world is possible. And the center of that work is love and joy and the spirit of abundance. These are things worth fighting for, things we are fighting for, and things that we are fighting with. May we know deep in our bones that this is the call of our faith. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be. We now enter now into our ritual that brings what's on our hearts and lay it on the altar of community and spirit. So, honoring the complexities of our lives, bring to your mind whatever grief, growth, or gratitude that is alive within you this morning, almost afternoon. And online, if you're joining us there, you're invited to share in the YouTube chat. And here in the sanctuary, you are invited to move forward to one of our new candle tables that you'll hear more about a little later on. And because the candles are dripping, you can take a candle, a votive candle, and light it to one of the candles that is stationary, or flip a switch if you so desire. If you would like one brought to you, please raise your hand and one of our ushers will bring one to you. May we now share in this ritual of community care and witness to one another's hearts. All that we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by a love that will never forsake us. Amen.
ready to sing our musical meditation. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of the translation for the text. We're going to sing in Spanish, but just so we know the text that we're singing. So the first verse says, "Thank you for the love in the sky. Thank you for the immense ocean. Thank you for the singing in the forest. Hallelujah." So let's sing this first verse. Ready? And gracias por el amor del cielo. Gracias por el inmenso mar. Gracias por el cantar del bosque. Aleluya. Let's sing verse one more time. Gracias por el amor del cielo. Gracias por el inmenso mar. Gracias por el cantar del bosque. Aleluya. Now before we sing the second verse, here's the translation of that second verse. It's thank you for the love in the whole world. Thank you for all the happiness. And thank you for my entire family. Hallelujah. Here we go. Gracias por el amor del mundo. Gracias por la felicidad. Gracias por toda mi familia. Aleluya. One more time, verse 2. Gracias por el amor del mundo. Gracias por la felicidad. Gracias por toda mi familia. Aleluya. Aleluya. One more time.
Everything that our church does for ourselves and for others is made possible by what we bring to it. Each week, we practice that shared generosity to support the work and witness of Unitarian Universalism, both here in Rochester and around the world. And each Sunday, half of our offering goes to a partner organization working to create a more just and loving world. Today, we share our plate with the UUA Disaster Relief Fund. The UUA Disaster Relief Fund is part of a covenant between the UUA and its congregations, between the congregations who give generously and those in need, and with our community partners. Through this aid for our congregations, our members, and our partners, we are able to truly embody our faith and our values. In the spirit of abundance and generosity, our offering will now be received with gratitude, both in the boxes here in the sanctuary and online via Venmo at Rochester Unitarian or at rochesterunitarian.org/donate. Thank you.
So this song that I'm going to be singing with Pablo was actually introduced to me by Pablo. And it is an African-American spiritual called Plenty Good Room. Plenty Good Room at my Father's Kingdom. And I'm going to be changing the words a little bit sometimes to say our heavenly kingdom. But there's plenty of good room. So choose your seat and sit down. Plenty good room at the Father's kingdom. Plenty good room, plenty good room. You just choose your seat and sit down. Oh, plenty good room, plenty good room. Good room at the Father's kingdom. Plenty good room, plenty good room. Just to choose your seat and sit down. I would not be a sinner. I'll tell you the reason why. 'Cause if my Lord calls on me, I wouldn't be ready to die. Oh, plenty good room, plenty good room, plenty good room, and the heavenly kingdom. Plenty good room, plenty good room. Just choose your seat and sit down. Oh, plenty good room, plenty good room, good room, and the Father's kingdom. Plenty good room, plenty good room. You just choose your seat and sit down. I would not be a backslider. I'll tell you the reason why. 'Cause if my good Lord calls on me, I wouldn't be ready to die. Oh, plenty good room, plenty good room, good room, and the heavenly kingdom. Plenty good room, plenty good room. You just choose your seat and sit down. Oh, plenty good room, plenty good room, good room in the heavenly kingdom. Plenty good room, plenty good room. You just choose your seat and sit down. One more time. Oh, plenty good room, plenty good room, good room in the heavenly kingdom. Plenty good room, plenty good room. You just choose your seat. Choose your seat and sit. No, just down.
A priest, a pastor, an imam, and a rabbit walk into a Red Cross. They're all gonna give blood. They're gonna donate. And the person working there says, "Oh, well, do you know what kind of blood type you are?" Asks the priest, the pastor, the imam, and the rabbit. And the rabbit scratches her head and says, "I'm probably a typo." The Unitarian Universalist minister gets left out of jokes, which is okay. I get invited to plenty of weird stuff. And it's an honor and a joy and a privilege to be able to say yes to some things. Not nearly as much as I would like, but occasionally I can say yes to something, well, that I wasn't planning. And that's how I found myself at 10:30 in the morning at Ontario Beach Park in Charlotte at a potluck, a beach brunch, like church, but on Fridays, with a few people, but mostly a 5-year-old. And after 20 minutes of being there and sampling all the snacks, his eyes get really big, and he says, "This is our lake, It's not just an ocean. And the native Californian in me took a little offense at just an ocean, but this was the body of water that he's grown up alongside, and suddenly realizing that he wasn't somewhere he didn't know, but in fact a place he knew well and called home, filled him with joy. This is our lake. I'm so glad I get to be here with all of you. This kid is real churchy. This 5-year-old is Reverend Eileen Casey Campbell, the minister in Canandaigua's kid, and he gets church, and he gets hospitality. We take up hospitality today because it is one facet of generosity, which is our season's theme. This year, we are exploring the 6 values that center around love: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. Really glad I got all of those. It was going to be embarrassing if I didn't. The 6 values that center around love that are how our congregations have chosen to articulate who and what we are together. It's not a creed or a doctrine that each of us has to sign on to, but they're common values and aspirations that inform our relationships, not just between congregations, but also for many of us, our own personal lives and our life in relationship with others. So we take generosity as our first value, and we take hospitality, a particular facet of generosity, as the first thing we tackle together because, well, quite frankly, I've got a few reasons. And the first one is that it's easier than other kinds of generosity. You don't particularly have to feel love, compassion, or even like people to be hospitable. To welcome your neighbor does not require you to like them. So, as a task that is both improved by and fed by coming to know the other, the stranger, the friend, the family member whom you welcome, it's not actually a prerequisite. So we enter into it simply by turning and doing a simple thing. We take it up also for a second reason. Church is a place to practice hospitality. Part of the ways in which we rehearse what it means to be in the larger world together is the hospitality we receive and offer one another on Sundays and throughout the week. Here at First Unitarian in Rochester, what comes to mind immediately are these candle tables made by Paul Swain, who we're not always so clear on the Bible, so our carpenter is named Paul, and that's not how it works in the original stories. But Paul knew that this ritual was important to our community and worked with others to build something that could hold something that was important to the rest of us. Each of us enters into this place, whether it's today for the very first time or 60 years ago, because someone else has set the table for us. And as we continue to be a part of the community, to take up the partnership in the work that we do together, we set the table for others to come. In another congregation, I once met a man named Bill who came to church, he said, every Sunday. Nearly every Sunday. There were some exceptions. His grandson's wedding, for example, which I approve of fully. When he had COVID, that was also a great time to sit it out. But nearly every Sunday, Bill made it his personal mission to come to church and greet others, to let others know that whether he had met them before or not, he was happy to see them. When I asked him how long he had been doing that, he started by saying, well, I've been a member of this church for many, many decades. But, well, it didn't start this way. My wife and I were casual members. We'd come, but we weren't every week kind of people. We liked it. We had friends there. And after many decades, she died. And my whole world turned upside down. I knew that next Sunday that I could go to church and there would be people who were expecting me, who knew me. He talked about the months and year afterward when people from church came to check on him, who were excited to see him, even when he was not having a good week. He found himself, against his better judgment, excited to see them. At the 1-year mark, Bill said he made a decision, something he called a spiritual discipline. He talked of how important it was that there was a place for him to come when he most needed it, and he wanted to be a part of making that for others. He stood at the doors of the church in Milwaukee through the winter to let people know that he was excited to see them, and he was glad that they were there, because that is what the church had done for him. That 5-year-old standing at the lake saying, "This is our lake," was so joyful about sharing this with me, but I didn't quite get it, and so I thanked him at the end of our beach brunch for inviting me. I thanked him with these words, "Thanks for sharing your lake with me." And he stopped me and said, "It's not my lake, it's your lake too. It's our lake." He did the real churchy thing, the real insider thing, the really emotionally smart and spiritually deep thing of claiming belonging by welcoming another. I have never believed more that that was his lake than when he told me it was my lake too. It has to be yours to give it away, and you have to not hold it too tightly. Perhaps you are sitting here wondering at the outrageous audacity of preaching of hospitality and welcome when the world turns so fitfully. We are literally facing climate apocalypse and tyranny. So who cares about welcome? Even the good stuff, the stuff of wonder in our lives, well, that's cosmic also, large scale. And yet, all of you will come back here next week. Probably not all of you. All of you will leave here and at some point or another have a meal. You will sit down to eat. You will welcome or be welcomed, but it probably won't happen at a meal. The statistics show that most of us will eat alone. The third reason we take up hospitality is that the stakes are, in fact, very, very high. We live in an epidemic of loneliness, and we seek out connection fretfully in a hyper-connected world in which all of us are inundated with too much information. We somehow feel lonelier and less held in relationship than Americans have ever felt before. Unitarian Universalism is not big on offering you ready-made answers from the pulpit, but this is perhaps one of the rare exceptions where I think I have something that I'd like you to do specifically. And I'm going to phrase it in a way that sounds even more surprising from this pulpit. The spiritual antidote to isolation and loneliness is, what would Jesus do? Hear me out. It's gather people at a table. It's hang out with people you know or don't know, ideally over food and in lots of unideal circumstances. Sometimes when death is in the house, sometimes with people deemed illegal, sometimes with people you just don't like, and sometimes with your best friends, with whom you understand yourself to have a deep loyalty, and even that is imperfect. Gathering people at a table is a spiritual antidote to the lack of connection that weaves its way through centuries, millennia, and spiritual traditions. not only Christianity, but Judaism as its root religion, and religious practices as diverse as Buddhism, count sharing a meal as a spiritual discipline that creates connection. And it looks all different sorts of ways. It need not have water or wine or bread. When I spent a summer in a Chinese monastery, I found myself 3 times, because I was a tourist monk, not a real monastic, 3 times eating a meal each day. And each of us gathered in rows of 10, all facing the front, just like this middle aisle here. Food was served to us from other monastics, from large bowls, who, with eye contact, would learn to put food on your plate if you liked what they had to offer, and skip you by if you didn't want it. And the meal was taken entirely in silence. We were not permitted to cross our legs or ankles. We were not permitted to make eye contact with anyone else but the people serving food. And the silence we found was enough. I would be weirded out if you invited me to your house to do this, and yet a month of daily practice of this kind of meal-taking was enough to make me feel connected to the people who surrounded me, was enough to help me understand that even though it did not require me to feel compassion and love for my neighbor, somehow over the course of a month, their chewing sound made me like them in a way I didn't expect. Having meals together looks like all different sorts of things, and yet as a society, many of us have found ourselves in a consumerism-driven perfectionism that proves too tall a barrier to actually invite people into our homes or to the church gardens and share a meal. We find ourselves inundated with social media pictures of perfectly styled food. We find ourselves shamed by our food choices and the desire to eat whatever we want as long as it's perfectly healthy and we're thin. We find ourselves with messages around what it means to be good enough to invite people, to host, that stop us, many of us, from ever hosting at all. Another surprise, perhaps, from this pulpit, but I believe that my personal mission and our job as a congregation is indeed to create heaven on earth. But the piece of paradise that I'm interested in is not the kingdom, is not a place for royalty, but the kingdom, a place where we see each other as siblings, connected. And so the perfectionism that stops most of us from offering hospitality to one another gets 3 other very specific, very concrete answers from me. They're all food related and they're all weird. Buckle up. The first one is to feed cold cuts to your friend on the floor. I don't really mean this literally, though I'd be willing to do that if you wanted to invite me over. It's not clearly the message in which I tell you that if we were all vegan, it'd really be a lot better for the environment. It would be. But let go of the fancy. Let go of the perfect. To be hospitable is to be generous not from beyond your means, but from what you have. Hospitality requires a generosity that is grounded in gratitude. Gratitude for this lake that is yours, but not yours alone. Gratitude for your family, the sky, the beauty that we sang of in the song. Gratitude for what you have and a sense of abundance that no matter what Instagram has taught you, what you have is enough. And there are people who would like to share that with you. So it doesn't have to be on the floor. Most of us would prefer a chair, as evidenced by this room. But if you don't have the perfect setup, you don't have a home to invite others into, inviting people to be with you after coffee hour here at church or on the grass outside, to have donuts or your own lunch that you pack, is still offering hospitality to one another. Secondly is something I learned right here at First Unitarian Church of Rochester, and it is to trust the luck of the pot. I learned this from all of you, but specifically it was told to me by Granny Annie, the minister of food here, who wanted me to know that it's true, I might be the lead minister, but I'm not actually in control. None of us are. If we offer one another hospitality, part of that involves recognizing that we need not do this alone. And so here at First Unitarian, we practice at our potlucks bringing something that you can and like to eat. And we know that if most people do that, and some people come right from work or school and can't do that at all, and some people had a little extra time and money and bring 2 things or a really big thing, there will be enough. Trust the luck of the pot not only to provide, but also to remind each and every one of us that none of us are actually in control. And finally, the third thing is something I learned from our youth, from Unitarian Universalist youth who gather for weekend conferences among strangers. They get in a car and they go to another congregation and say, yes, I would like to be locked into this church basement for 36 hours, mostly with people I don't know. And they trust and have faith that that will turn out okay, and most of the time it does. Part of what allows them to do that is this incredible spiritual practice with a silly, silly name of croissants, not donuts. So I'd like to act this out. Chris and Reverend Verdis, will you help me out? So this is a pastry metaphor, but like pastries, it's very real. It's something you can feel. If we were a donut, the 3 of us would gather our bodies and close the circle. There'd be a hole in the middle, but the dough has no gaps. But if we were a croissant, we would look like this. We'd turn toward each other, we could still have a conversation, but there's clearly room for others to join. Thank you. This spiritual discipline of our youth is a cornerstone of the trust and faith that it requires of our youth to go be with strangers and know that it will be okay. It's an embodied practice we all can practice at coffee hour, here on Sundays when you're asked to greet a neighbor and turn towards your best friend. It's a way of creating a space, of establishing the expectation like Bill did in Milwaukee winters to say, I was expecting you, and I'm glad that you're here. Our Universalist and Unitarian heritage tells us that the difference between heaven and hell is both that hell does not exist, but also that it's not the food, it's not the photo-worthy display, it's not the comfort of the chairs we have to offer, it's not the perfect words or marketing material that we think we know, but the willingness to feed one another, the willingness to be open, to provide for one another, to listen, to make mistakes, and to welcome again and again, so that this place, this church, your life, this kingdom might truly be ours. Amen. So I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing our closing hymn.
We shall be known.
As we end our service today, one generous thing that you can do if you're willing and able is to stack the chairs with arms for us after the service. And as we extinguish our flaming chalice, we will say our unison words together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
The table has already been set by us, has already been set for us. Go out into the world hungry for connection. Go out into the world loving. May it be so. Amen.